Welcome to another episode of a Students to Classified Market Supporting Guide, the professional segment of the Intentional Intern podcast. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Today, we'll have another episode on something near and dear to my heart and super critical to all professional people: human resources, also known as HR. For past listeners, I've covered an episode on HR before. However, this episode is a bit different. We're going global. With that, I'm extremely thrilled to introduce our guest, Yasmeen Duncan, the Global Chief People Officer for Magnolia Bakery. She's more than just an inspiration and an amazing thought leader in HR. Yasmeen is also the founder and CEO of the Sisterhood Society for Women in Color, a nonprofit that empowers Black women to assert agency over their careers and recognize their potential. Just because we're covering more ground going global doesn't mean that we're not going to go deep. Throughout the episode, Yasmeen and I talk about her HR journey, how to human well, the value of sisterhood, and so much more. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. Yasmeen's advice hits on so many levels. Her wisdom and words are so transformational, they truly make an impact within any season of your life, and they're definitely on replay for me. For those who want to connect with Yasmeen, her LinkedIn will be down below. I encourage everyone to check out her features on other podcasts, her publications, and any of her upcoming speaking engagements. To stay in the know about the meaningful work that the Sisterhood Society for Women in Color does, make sure that you subscribe on their website, sisterhoodsocietywoc.org. Let's get into the episode. Hi, Yasmeen. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Super excited to have you on the podcast today, and I really appreciate you spending some time with us over here.
I'm really excited to be here. I'm so elated. I'm so happy that we got to meet and I can join you on your podcast journey and be a part of your dream. That means a lot.
I really appreciate it.
Of course.
And to start us off, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Absolutely. So my name is Yasmeen Duncan. I am the Chief People Officer for Magnolia Bakery. I'm also the CEO and founder of the Sisterhood Society for Women of Color, which is a nonprofit organization that supports, believes, and whose mission is to provide resources tactically, emotionally, and psychologically for Black career women in the working world.
That's amazing.
How did you get there? I'm curious.
I want to give you your props for that, for how you just articulated your nonprofit and what you talked about, because even I started to get like a little bit energetic of hearing about that, oh, this is what it does. And so that's like a perfect like introduction, if I've heard one, of anybody speaking on their business.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, get into it. That was great. I mean, and now that you mentioned it, I mean, where did that come from, of wanting to start your own nonprofit?
Absolutely. So, the journey goes, I got to take you all the way back, Amaya. So I've been in human resources now for 19 years, going on 20 years, OMG. And starting as an HR admin, working my way up the ranks, I was often is probably too like PC and kind of a word. Almost every HR team I was the only person of color. I was the only Black woman on the team. And so I did not have a blueprint to be a guide of this is what you do. This is what you don't do. This is how you navigate corporate politics. This is how you find your voice. This is how you come into your authenticity. This is how you should operate, like none of those things. And also in my journey up the ladder in corporate, not only did I not have the blueprint at work, and I'm sure I have like mentors that I've grown up with or had, but there was no one in specifically the corporate space or who was on the same trajectory of career elevation as I was having it, right? So that's a whole other dynamic, right? Because as I'm moving up the ladder, there's no one in my friend group who's also an executive like me. in the age range like me, so being in these corporate spaces, not having the blueprint, being the only Black person in the team at the table and the youngest, how do you navigate that? And so something that I wish that I would have had was the blueprint, was resources or resource hub to say, here's the way and you're not alone and girl, I got you. And so in the fall of 2018, I was, as I like to say, divinely inspired to start this nonprofit. And literally the logo, the name, the mission, the vision, everything came to me. Now, sure, the mission has, morphed over time and over the years, but at the core focus, when you peel back the onion, like, yeah, we're going to focus on career. Other pillars, of course, it blends into other pillars of like self-care, mental health, all the things, but career, is your job is where you spend most of your time. And the more resources you have there, you can do all the other things that you're passionate about or purpose for. So that's how it came together. And I'm happy that I decided to follow my purpose and provide a sense of resource and support, guidance, but just sisterhood, like for real, to the space for Black women trying to navigate. I'm super excited because we have our official launch event, which is interesting because I was divinely inspired fall 2018. We didn't launch till January 2020, but with COVID, post-COVID, we were really like a virtual movement. And now we're finally going to have our in-person event. So excited. It's going to be in July. So more details to come.
Wow, that's actually really inspirational to just hear you talk about, I wish I would have had this. And so I'm going to create what I wish I had. And that's a strong type of mentality to have when you are in those spaces versus, succumbing to what you're dealing with and restructuring that and recalibrating your mindset to say, I actually want to be able to create something out of these experiences that I've had, even though they may have not been super great. I want to prevent that for others if I can. And I want to be that person that can kind of provide these resources that I wish that I had. Like you said, basically being like a mentor for others in this indirect way of having this amazing nonprofit to give these resources to these other people who probably were in a space of feeling like maybe I need the same thing. And so that's absolutely amazing just hearing you have that. And I love the divinely inspired. I've never heard that before.
You were like the fourth person that said that to me, like divinely inspired. Let's get into that. Can we?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that mean? To be divinely inspired is you being led to your purpose. I'm someone that I am a Christian. I subscribe to Christianity. I believe in God. I believe that nothing in life is by accident. Everything is with reason, with purpose, with a plan. And whether you know what it is or not, meaning whether you know why you're here, your purpose will find you. How your life happens, how it envelopes in the good, the bad, the indifferent, the things that you go through that you're like, this makes no sense. Like, when am I going to get out this drought? When am I going to get out this rut, this place, this cloudy space? All of that is all you being on track for your journey. Because on the way, I like to talk in analogy. So thinking about walking down a road, there's all different kinds of levels of terrain that you're going to encounter. And sometimes things don't make sense. And sometimes you don't have the why to what is going on and what you're experiencing. But one thing I can promise you, without a doubt, if you don't remember anything else I say, you're going to use it all. Every experience, every doubt, every internal defeat or triumph is going to matter. It's going to mean something. And when I look back on my life, I'm talking like I'm 85 years old, but I'm just saying, hindsight is a beautiful thing, because when I look back on my life, it's like, oh, wow. Like, who would have thought when Sephora approached me about coming to work for them, and then they made a role based off my experience at my previous company at Juicy Couture, because I was like HR for Juicy Couture for the field. And I had New York City, Long Island, and then ended up taking over the West Coast, like Seattle to Texas, Puerto Rico, and Hawaii, literally. And I was going to school for my first master's, like going to school back and forth. How was I doing it? I don't even know. A lot, right? A lot going on, a lot to handle with no team as a one person, like HR, like support for myself. And then Sephora ended up finding me because my district in Manhattan ended up getting shut down. And so one of my associates doing like closing day was helping this woman shop for some accessories. That woman turned out to be the regional recruiter for Sephora. That associate said, "Hey, I was giving like how to interview prep and resume guidance. Even though my store was shutting down, let me support my team to the end. I want to make sure that I get everybody on the boat, if you will, right?" And that led her to saying, "Hey, I know you're giving after one of my interview classes. Here's the email address for the regional recruiter. It may be good for you guys to connect because I know you're in HR." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." And I sent this woman over an Excel grid with like, "Here, I know that I looked online and did some research. I see that you have these open roles. Here are all the employees who are in need of work because my district is closing. Here's pros. Here's opportunities and areas that they need to grow. These are positions that I would suggest them for." I did all that work. I'm going back and forth with this person for 2 weeks. Connect with the regional recruiter for Sephora at the time. And after 2 weeks, she's like, "Hey, thanks so much for helping me and sending me all these people. Do you need a job?" I said, "Sure." Um, but I wasn't really looking yet. I'm just trying to make sure my team is okay. And long story short, they ended up hiring me because they wanted to have HR in the stores. They just didn't know what that should look like. But I was HR to whole like district area, right? This role was HR, but there was this training component in all the lines of beauty, hair care, nail care, makeup. I did not anticipate to become a makeup artist to do my job in HR. Sometimes it was like, okay, like I know we're doing skincare training, but I need to hire people. I have to have, employee relation conversations. It felt like it was getting in the way. But who would have known that it was in my future because I am a purpose leader, right? That was divinely created to impact people. Who would have known that it was in my future to be a thought leader and to be my own brand, let alone create brands that I run. So I am able to tap into those resources of being a makeup artist because I can have a polished look. I know what that is, right? And that came from having that experience at Sephora in this role that required that. Who would have known how that would have served me? When you think of people who have brands or end up being on TV or celebrities, didn't anticipate it. They have to hire like entire teams. I got this stuff in my wheelhouse. I can do it. I don't need to do that. When I have like photo shoots or headshots, I can do my own makeup. This is just like a small story, but to make the point, who would have known something that I would have deemed it to be insignificant has served my greater good for what was awaiting me in my future. Also, later down the line, I went and ended up working in hotels, and I was tasked to lead the renovation project for this really high-end hotel. It was like a top 3 largest hotels in New York City. They ended up going through a rebranding for their entire look of the rooms down to the uniforms of what should be worn. Who would have known that I would be leading with mood boards and leading the conversation with the executive team, which I was on, of this is how we should upgrade, because we were a family owned hotel that was around from like 1980s, right? And this is like at the time 2017, but we still have the same uniforms we had on 30 years ago. Like, why not do a mood board and have different looks that is updated, that's modern, and make it fun and get buy-in from the employees by having a demo day where they could try on different looks and tell us and give us feedback of what the feel is. And where did I get that from? Where did I get the idea to do a mood board? Where did I get the idea to go to the fashion district and pull different fabrics and look up vendors that we can possibly go with and have whole bidding engagement for who we're going to select for uniforms. Well, I worked at Calvin Klein in the fashion industry. I was like an HR administrator there supporting the team and getting their coffee and their lunch, but who knew it was in my future, because I didn't give up on me, because I knew that I was made for more, because I knew that what was presently in front of me and constantly getting people's lunch wasn't where it started or stopped. Who would have known, I was like the point person for the entire design floor. Any questioning, oh, hey, Yaz, is Yaz here today? They come down and talk to me. I always go up. They were part of my morning routine to walk through the design floor and like chat with everybody. That would have served me later in my future. So needless to say, you're going to use it all. So with that said, I'm an undiscouraged person. I may not understand. I may not have clarity on certain things. You go through a myriad of emotions in the human experience. But I know that it's lessons that I need for whatever's awaiting me in my future that I'm unaware of, and to impact or give to the people that I'm going to meet or I was divinely supposed to be connected to. Our lives are not about us at all. It's actually about other people, but that's a whole nother conversation.
I agree with that. I definitely think when I come from the same sphere of I'm doing things because I want to assist people, I think a very big core value of who I am comes from I just know I want to help people. And even when I went to college and started college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I actually asked my mom and my dad to pick my major and my minor because I was like, I don't know what I should do going forward. And my mom was like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I just want to do something where I can help people. And that was it. And it was just like, I ended up in anthropology and then figuring out the study of the human race and what I wanted to do, and took so many different types of classes. And in the same way of you talking about your HR, different careers and how it served you well, my holistic background that I got from anthropology served me very well in how I looked in HR. And so when I actually got into the field and I got inspired to go into it, the way that I looked at it was completely different versus a strategic standpoint. And in terms of with my minor in marketing, I had that business acumen on that side where I could complement them together and have this unique ideal of what HR meant to me and like what my values and my pillars were. So I was asking questions that people probably would have never thought about, just because I was in a place where I was thinking holistically of how it made people feel on top of how it would make a company look, and marrying those together and putting them in positive alignment to where that can benefit all parties. And so now, seeing in hindsight, of course, every single HR experience I've been in, or every single internship that I've been in that wasn't HR, they all still really helped build me to what I wanted to do in HR. And hearing that that was the same experience for you in a different form with all of the different careers that you've held within HR is such a beautiful thing to see how that's so just mirroring, and that it's more people that have that same experience, and you being divinely inspired in that way is inspiring other people with what you do now. And so one thing that I want to ask is, we talked about what's for you will never miss you ever. And so how did HR come to you? Like in the beginning, how was HR the thing that you decided this is where I was going to have a career?
Well, it was interesting because I was actually on the path to being a school counselor, like a high school guidance counselor. I wish I could find or know what happened to my high school guidance counselor, because she was so impactful for my life. We thought she was so cool. The other guidance counselors would like, be jealous of her because everyone was in her office. And I was on that path. I was actually almost done with my master's program. And at the time I was working in HR again, which I previously worked in human resources, but I did not see it as a career path. It was just kind of like a job while I'm going to school. I didn't take it seriously until that. And I will tell you, I had just a moment of clarity where, your life has to make sense. It just has to make sense for you. Let me clarify that. And I'm saying to myself, I'm going to school to be a guidance counselor. I am passionate about youth and giving resources and being a resource and all the things. But my degree from the school I was going to my master's degree, was $50,000. And the salary for being a guidance counselor starting at a public school at the time was $50,000. Um, if I was in like a charter school or a private school, it could have gone up to like between 60, 65. And it literally the light bulb didn't go off to me till later on because I was very focused on like I was so excitable about the work I was doing. But what about the life that I wanted to live? My passion for the mission work of being a guidance counselor was met, but the quality of life that I wanted to have and saw for myself from a child, which the North Star I created, that could not be met. So I was in conflict. And so I had to prioritize what would be important. And I realized you don't actually have to choose. I could be passionate and purpose and mission driven about the work I'm doing and live a life that is acceptable for me and feels good for me and is comfortable for me at the same time. And there was a day that someone came and just wanted advice at the job. And it was like, I really like this. And I'm not even in this, like, I'm not in a senior position. I'm not in like a management position, or I was in a management position. I'm not an executive, but people always come to me. There's something here. I like giving advice. I like giving career advice. I like helping people out. I like this side of HR. And then really digging into it, there's so much to do. I don't know that anyone could ever come at the cover, like the full gamut of HR. And then I said, no, and then I can have both. I can meet the hard stuff and the quality life needs that I have. It was a no-brainer. And that was one of the best decisions that I have ever made.
That's amazing. I mean, I've never heard of people talking about HR in a very passionate way, except like a few. There's definitely the select few that I've had the honor of being able to speak to that speak about HR so passionately. And not only is it interconnected just for their career wise, but in their life purpose, it's something that allows them to serve the greater good that they knew that they were going to serve in the first place. And seeing you talk about how excited you are about HR and how just it's so fun and I get to learn so much and I get to do what I want to do. It's again like I am in the boat that you were in, where I'm in my master's now. I'm working to elevate myself in the HR sphere, and seeing the level of energy here and it being matched is just, I love it. I really do. And I love that I'm able to have conversations with thought leaders like yourself because you always teach something. Like I'm learning from what you're talking about. And there's never, like you said, you guys give such transformational advice that people really don't pick up on until later on after the conversation is over. Because again, you're just connecting through conversation and you're talking, but you guys never know how valuable you guys' voice is to a lot of people, especially young HR leaders like us. And I really appreciate you sharing yourself with people throughout your life in that way. That's a really big thing.
Absolutely, Amaya. I'm so moved. I'm so moved. And what you're saying is such confirmation to the point I was making, that it's not about you, it's about the people who we're going to meet. You know, like life is long. Imagine if I had gave up on myself, on my dream, if I would have been discouraged. I'm the only Black person in the room. I'm the only Black female in the room. I don't have a blueprint. I don't think I'm going to make it. I wouldn't be experiencing everything in the here and in the now. I would not have met you. You were awaiting me in my future. That is so powerful. That is just so powerful. And you are where I was. getting my master's. I want to do HR. I decided this is going to be my career, highly emotionally intelligent and present for yourself. The difference is now you got access to people you can ask questions to, which is great. I'm always going to be here, girl. I'm not going nowhere. But that's why you do it. You know, like I am extremely passionate about HR. I'm a very, very layered woman and human being and leader. There's a lot here. There's more than the surface. And it usually peels back in the one-to-one for sure. You know, there's deep water here if you're willing to go there. And oftentimes in HR, it's very much so counseling. I feel more like a counselor than anything else. I feel like a therapist than anything else. Child, I'm saving lives and saving marriages. Like, I'm keeping people employed, right? I'm helping people to take risk on themselves. And it's exciting seeing the true development beyond a training program, beyond a manager one-on-one. Like when I met you, you were scared to be vocal. And where did that come from? You were teased when you were in your childhood. That you being teased and not processing that was the birth of your inner critic, i.e. why you have imposter syndrome. And you question if you can do this because truly deep down you don't think that you're worthy. But I'm here to speak life into you and remind you that you are, and let me tell you what I see. These are the frames of my one-to-one conversations. This is the level of like depth we go into in conversation. You know, as an HR leader, you are in a position of power and influence, not only in your organization, but to support people in transforming their mindset and how they show up in the world and how they see themselves. You are restoring people's self-belief. Oftentimes I'm speaking to people or speaking into them things they don't even see in themselves, that they doubt in themselves, that their inner critic every day is trying to just shave more confidence down on. I'm saying, no, you actually like got it going on. And here is why. As an HR leader, you are the person of influence and power to be able to support people in having complete world and mind and life shifts. And what is so disheartening and disappointing to me is meeting HR leaders or thinking of the many in my 19 years that I have encountered that have not sat in the posture and the responsibility of the power and influence they sit in and have in their role. It's like, do you not know who you are? And where my power comes from as a leader. I love this conversation, by the way. This is great. This is really good. Where my power comes from as a leader, my authority and conviction that I speak in, is that I'm clear on my power and my influence that I have for the people that are in my charge, that are in the organizations I lead. And I need to operate, show up, be courageous enough, challenged enough in the right ways to ensure that I remain an advocate for people. And not only for the organizational, sure, the needs, the goals, the objectives, the initiatives, sure, but that's like the light stuff. And I also feel like that's the surface stuff because the human condition needs a lot more to maintain. And HR is the water. If you know that you are, if you can, and if you are clear and tapped in enough to be the vessel and be the vase to pour. Yeah. That was hard, but yeah. That was hard. It's 100% true. Yeah.
No, and you're completely right. I had a meeting with one of the professional leaders that I met actually through my SHRM chapter here. And one of the quotes that he left us with was, HR is an enabling profession. We enable leaders to be leaders. We enable managers to be managers. And that's a beautiful thing, like you're saying, of how much power we have to help people and heal them, like you talked about. of getting to the roots and the layers and the understandings within the one-on-ones with other people and how important that is. And I want to ask, what does that process look like for yourself? Of you are always in the arena to instill and to support and to advocate for others, but also open others up to the possibilities of what they can do and recognizing and acknowledging their power of what they have. And how does that one-to-one look when it's in the mirror and it's with yourself?
So I actually set the goal and I path backwards. So let me give you an example. When I was young, there was a movie that I loved. I knew, listen, I always wanted to work. I always wanted to have a job. Me and my mom was just on the phone this week because she was saying there was a day that I came in her bedroom and I was like breaking down crying. I was like literally 3 or 4 years. I was like 4 or 5 years old. And she was like, "What's wrong?" She thought like I fell in the living room or something happened. And I was like, "Mom, I ain't got no job." you know, I ain't got no career. Like, no, literally, this really happened. So I was like, "Girl, but you know about a job, a career at 4 or 5 years old." Like, yeah. But anyway, I think back to just the early times of like 9 to 5. I love 9 to 5. Seeing these women in charge, looking good, nails done, hair done, outfits on, and they were taking charge in the workplace. They were standing up, for themselves and for what's right. That excited me. It ignited me. And I wanted to be that or do that. Didn't know how, where, when, or, but I was clear on that. And so as I got older and as my career transitioned, there's the exercise of like, who is your future self? Like, who is my future self? Like, when I look at the life I want to have, how I want to live, the woman I want to be, what I want to do, how I want to help people, impact people, who is my future self? Who is the woman that's doing all those things? What is her temperament? How does she operate in the world? How does she care for herself? Who are her friendships? Who does she surround herself with? What are her hobbies? What are the things that she does to maintain, to be able to pour out so much all the time? Who is this woman? What is her profile? And I write all that out, like the profile of my future self in every way, shape, or form. How is she functioning? Is she bold? Is she confident? Is she courageous? How is she courageous? How does she trust people? How does she trust people? How does she evaluate? How does her mind work? What is her level of assessment? I mean, in the grains, write that out. What's your future self? And I mean, at the simplest forms, you can start with adjectives. What are adjectives that describe your future self? Once I get there, great. So what steps, now that I've identified and defined who's my future self, who's this future woman, who do I need to be today? What do I need to implement? What friends do I need to have? What program in school do I need to take? What book do I need to read? What TED Talks, what podcasts what do I need to put in place so that I can become? I think the misconception people have is they think they become when they get there. No, you become that now. So what do you put in place to become that now? And to be a woman, answering your question in second part, that is my future self. So I am now my future self actualized. Now I've done this exercise again, actually recently. Right? Like, where is this thought leader going? What does this look like? Right? I'm prioritizing my well-being. I need to maintain my mental. I need to make sure that I'm clear always. If my divine purpose is many things, but as far as in the HR space, is to be a pitcher pouring out, is to be a vessel. I can't do that if I'm clogged. I need to be clear at all times. I need to be clear on myself. I need to be clear how I feel. I need to check in. I need to be connected to my body. I need to know when I need to stop, pause, go. And for me, because if I could do it for me, I can help other people do it. You can't take people where you haven't been. You can't lead people where you are not. So I need to ensure that I'm ever processing myself and I am ever processed to help people to do their inner work and process as they need to. The reason I can meet someone and have that clear profile of them in 2.5, I could tell you your highlights and your lowlights, and I can like give you some guide along the way because I've done the work for myself. I'm currently doing it for myself, and I may see things in you that I've already conquered, challenged, or surpassed. So I can have some tools along the way. You gotta, in order to help people to be clear, you have to be clear.
Mhm.
That was
And
a
I
really
fully
long answer, but I wanted to
no,
cover the gamut.
no, I fully agree with that. Of it's almost like it's a cycle, essentially. And it's this human cyclical cycle of how we are all continuing to learn from one another. And that collaboration is necessary. And it starts with if you want to get somewhere, you have to see someone else who's already done it most of the time. And then you have those innovative leaders who are tackling a space of this has never been done before. And that's where they are known as the people who can, trickle that down and cascade that down further, like you were talking about, which I want to ask from your sense of how powerful that can be of having that, of being that clear person and just the power in general of everything you have. I wanted to go a little bit more into what you talked about earlier, which was almost that powerhood, like that power of sisterhood and that dynamic of sisterhood and why that's so important. And so, from your lens and your experience, what has sisterhood shown and given you within all of its power?
Mm. You have phenomenal questions, Amaya. I'm talking like, who's Barbara Walters? No shade. No, it's great. It's really great. Um, what has sisterhood given me? The first thing that comes to mind is community, freedom. It's so rewarding. It is so fulfilling. It is so freeing to like have a heavy week or like a hard day and link up with your sister girl, your girlfriend, and just like release and bear burdens together. But as we bear burdens, we bear solutions. We bear measures of support. We lift each other up. We cheerlead for each other. We hold hands, we hug. We say, I got you. And you say, I got you. It's just it's a different level of love. Um Sisterhood is like vital for me. I'm a girl's girl. Like the way that the extension of energy I get from girl time or when girl time is coming, what? That's everything. And it's so important, it's needed. I think as a person trying to, at least I've come to feel and learn, at least for me, in my human experience, I need to ensure that I have certain pillars so that I can be well maintenance and I can human well. And sisterhood is one of those pillars for me. That's my tribe that I will always have and that are keenly selected. Because again, I need to protect the mind, the spirit, the emotions of where I am because of where I'm trying to go and who I'm still trying to become and are in the process of becoming. So I do not extend my time or build relationship with just anyone. They're handpicked. They are well sourced. So I can make informed decisions for myself. And that comes also from HR. HR has informed my life. I mean, every decision you could, I mean, the assessment, the phone screen. A candidate don't pass the phone screen. They don't go to the next step, right? But how many people in our lives didn't pass the phone screen? You still dated them. You married them, right? You stayed friends with them. Why? Elevate your standards. HR has supported me in elevating my standards, establishing my standards, and creating boundaries that can stand a test of time.
Wow. And again, thinking about how your career is supporting your life purpose and you giving all of these dynamic examples of how that's been done, that's a testament that I feel like is going to be really helpful and valuable for so many people of how connective that HR has been for you within your life purpose already of just what you want to do. And that's just, to me, is just awe-inspiring because I'm not there yet to that level where you are yet. I will be at one day. But from your point of talking about how HR has given you this opportunity to further continue to elevate yourself with the knowledge and the experience that you've gained, I want to ask from the point of you're an executive now and you're in this elevated spot of HR. You're this executive now. And within how you lead in your leadership philosophy of how you're able to continue supporting and advocating all of those that you take charge of, what do you do as a thought leader in this executive space that you feel makes you stand out as an executive, as a CHRO or a CPO?
Meeting people where they are and calling things what they are. When I say meeting people where they are, my title is a title, right? That doesn't mean I'm a chief people officer. Ooh, I get to be in the ivory tower now. No, you don't. You are running people strategy for a global organization, and you need to keenly be clear on what the challenges are of the organization, where the organization is trying to track to, what the objectives are, the goals, what we're running towards. So you can create a people strategy that people can get behind and believe in because you fully understand what's going on. You know what to put in place. You can't not understand the challenges, the nuances, the human experience of the people in your charge and think you're going to come up with a good people strategy because the organization says your deck looks really good and you present really good and okay, good, you're doing your job. No, there's people that are attached to the plans and decisions that you're making. And so go find out and meet them where they are. I go to the bakeries. I get this level of conversation. I just went to our Rock Center location. I won't say the employee's name, but we had a phenomenal conversation. And he's our porter. I mean, this man to tears. It was such an impactful conversation. You need to know what's going on. You need to know people's names. How do they need support? What are we doing well? What are we not? Those plans and those strategies you're coming up with, they may think is irrelevant and it's not really impactful. It's not moving the needle. It's so great. It looks great on a deck and you presented it well and your ownership was like, oh, wow. It's a revenue driver. At what expense? What's the cost of that with your people? The human condition can be separate from your strategy. It can't. It needs to be included. Second thing, calling things what they are. It was interesting for me because I would say the ride up, the climb up the ladder for HR, it was interesting, not even just in the HR space per se, but just seeing executive leaders be shy to, everyone talks about shy to speak up. Everyone talks about the table, having a seat at the table, being in the room, all the things. But when you're there, what are you doing? Are we being silent? Are we being quiet? Are we a part of the discussion? Are we leading the discussion? Are we afraid to challenge? Are we afraid? And again, challenge ideas, not people, be clear. But you may have to do that too sometimes. It's okay. Sometimes we all need to be rerouted, right? Are we willing to have the hard conversations? I haven't really seen that. The vocality can be lacking. It's very interesting. So, yeah, you got to call things what they are. If a process, if a system, if a policy, the list goes on, doesn't make sense, we need to make it make sense. It's simple, it's not hard. And let's work together to do that. But let's have the conversation and let's call it what it is. Let's not have the pink elephant in the room and work around it. And I've seen that more times than not. I enjoy the vocality that I came into because I wasn't always this way, but I'm very comfortable here now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to your point in talking about community earlier, of just how you're able to cultivate that and where you're able to have that comfortability where you can have those tough conversations and you can be transparent and you can advocate to get to a better place, because that's what it's all about, right? About just being able to come together as one so we can further elevate and push forward the goals and initiatives that we're trying to do within our company. And even in the way that you demonstrated of talking about, it's not hard. In reality, it's not hard to just collaborate and get together and form that community that's needed to do what needs to be done. But then, of course, from the angles of if people aren't using their vocality and they aren't using all of their strengths and their resources, that's where we start to have kind of like that cross wires almost of like, we're all in the same extension cord, but we're not going towards the same outlet. Like we're not all having the same charge. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you understanding, like, I already know because of how you're laying everything out, of you have a full understanding of what needs to be done, but also how to get there as well. And you're willing to not do it by yourself. And working with a community and not in a silo is so important. So important.
Mm-hmm. So important. I mean, it's not me and me. It's me and my team. Any direct report that I have had, except one, it has been collaborative, above and beyond. It has to be. I can't wait till my team does it. I didn't do it. It's my team. It's my director on my team, my VP on my team, my recruiter, my trainer, whoever it is. I'm not going to take the credit. We do it together and we get it done. Sure, I have the vision. I got the strategy. I need to communicate it to them in a way that's clear. Amen. And then we work together and they go get done what needs to get done. But we like collab the whole time. Collaboration is everything. And that's the part of the process that I love the most. I don't want to just be making these decisions. If something comes up, I always want to have, and my team will tell you, I always want to have a discussion about it. What do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about that? I don't know about that. I don't know. I'm not really for that. Tell me more why you're saying this. I want to have that robust discussion. I'm here for it. It's not my ideas. It's our ideas. And we all have to believe in it.
Yeah. And I remember one of the things that I learned from one of my mentors was talking about collaboration in forms of, you want to be able to collaborate on an idea so much with people that when someone asks you whose idea was it? None of you know, but you just all know that you worked on it. It's an effort. It's a collective effort, and moving as a collective, especially within a company, and having that community is so important. And so having a thought leader who's leading the charge like you are is something that is very, very inspiring. And again, I really appreciate you being an inspiration and being a mentor for people like me who are able to look and see that, of having that blueprint of where we want to get to.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amaya.
Of course. And my last topic that I want to talk about, of everything that you do and everything that you encounter, of course, is something that stuck out to me when you were talking, of knowing how to human well and how you have these pillars for yourself to be able to do that. And one that I know that we briefly touched on a little bit was your recovery and recharge of, oh my gosh, how do you have time to do all of this? How do you have time to do all of these things and be the person that you are and show up and be present in the ways that you do, in the phenomenal ways that you show up for your team and for yourself? What does that process look like for you and how you're able to recharge and recover?
Excellent question. It's prioritizing my well-being. It's being connected to my body so I can do that and constant check-ins with myself. So for years, and I have friends who still like, remember when you said this? I had a very militant mindset. I don't know. I still don't can tell you where it came from in regards to my goals, things that I had to do, personal for work, like, let's get it done. This going, 14, 16, 18, 19 hours a day, going 6 days a week. I'm going to work on a Saturday. Like, not even like Saturday morning. I've gone to work at like 3:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday. Like, really? And been there into Saturday evening, like to just work and catch up, and workaholic, took so much pride in it, loved it, and had a very robust life. It's like, okay, she must not have friends. No, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm a very social person, but I love being in the hustle and bustle. You would think somebody was on my back. And for what? For who and why? Why? And so I would say 2020 was, I think, an introspective year for the world. We had to stand still, deal with ourselves, sit with it. And being so used to being a busy bee, got to just kind of sit and reflect. 2021, I said I want to start implementing self-care. Maybe sleeping in. Like, most people probably get up at like 6:00, 6:30, maybe 5:30. I'm up at 4. Even now, I'm up at 4. It's just, I just wake up. I think working in the hotel industry for so many years, I'm still like on that track. But I'll sleep in. If I'm in my body, I'm feeling like I need rest. I've learned to give myself rest, give my body what it needs so I can be my best self. If I'm not good to me, I'm not good to no one. And so relax. Nobody's on your back. No one's like, calm down. It's okay. If I feel tired, I give my body rest. If I eat certain foods and it makes me feel super full, super stuffed, super sleepy, probably not, that's really heavy. Probably not the foods I need to eat, or be mindful of what I want to complete for the day, for the week, and be mindful when I'm eating all that kind of food that makes me feel a bit drained, knowing I have stuff to get done. I visualize my day, literally. Okay, looking at my day the night before. What do I have going on tomorrow? Okay, a little back to back. I need to give myself a little bit more breathing room. I'm having certain conversations. This is going to be heavy. This is going to be a lot of like thinking through. I want to give myself some mental rest before like my next, meeting that I have in the afternoon. So I move things around. When I say visualize my day, that doesn't come without going through, what do I want to feel at the end of the day? I want to feel like I did a lot of good work. I have some strong head starts on some things, because before I would try to fit everything in the day. Like, I would always say I'm a planner, but I really wasn't planning well. I'd have like sometimes 12 to 15 meetings in a day, from like 8 to 5. I'm sorry, 8 to like 7. And then 7, I'm actually getting work done. But you're not putting any space in the calendar to get work done. It doesn't make sense. So I have a lot of things going on. So it does hold me accountable and force me to manage my time to keep up with all the things. Outside of being a CPO for a global company, having a nonprofit that I also am actively running as the CEO. And I'm also a content creator. Like, I'm LinkedIn queen at this point. I never knew this was awaiting me in my future, but for who I needed to be and how I want to show up for my thought leader branding, I need to be constantly posting. How do I set up myself in a way where, because people are like, you have a content creator? I'm like, no, that's me. And how do I set up myself in a way where I can make all my content, stay on top of my work, do my passion projects with the nonprofit. Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm in school currently for my MBA full time. How do I do it all to get it all done? Where do I put in my rest? Instead of trying to fit everything in a day, move things around. Have a strong head start, which I like to say, so that I could pace the workout. It's important. And as I prioritize my well-being, my needs, giving myself rest, staying in tune with my body and how I'm feeling, pausing, starting, stopping, that's how I'm able to maintain and work from a place of abundance and not hustle. And because I'm working from a place of abundance, I am able to get a lot more amazing amounts of work done while still being whole. And that's the goal.
And that's an amazing goal to lead us off with, of talking about that strong head start and having this strong finish, of giving that advice of how we should recharge and recover, especially how you do it with everything that you have going on. So I want to say thank you so much again, Yasmeen, for coming on the podcast and giving us so many nuggets of knowledge, advice, talking about your experience, and most importantly, just sharing your entire story and your entire self with us.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Amaya. This was great.
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of a Students to Classified Market Survival Guide, the professional segment of the Intentional Intern podcast. We hope you all enjoyed the episode and let us know who you want to hear from next. I hope you learned something along the way. See you guys next time.